Filmmaker James Cameron recently released his long gestated and hotly anticipated sequel to his uber blockbuster Avatar, a film called Avatar: The Way of Water. While audiences are surely turning up more for the, state of the art special effects on display, what brought me to the theater, was the fact that I had been, snowed in for, a week with a, cabin fever ridden toddler who just wanted me to spin her around in a pink bucket that we keep her stuffed animals in most of the time. And, needless to say, I needed a break. So I ran to my local AMC at 10 p.m. and I decided I was going to give Cameron the test, because frankly I hadn't really cared about Avatar since I saw it in 2009. It's been a a fun movie to pop on here and there over the years, but far from the zeitgeist and pop culture defining work that it was sold as and for a time was thought to be. Naturally, I was also looking forward to seeing what sort of wonders the grand poobah of action filmmaking could do with $400 million at its disposal. I can confirm it easily clears the high bar of the modern amusement park era of moviegoing that Disney's Marvel movies have been owning for the last 10 years. Of course, this era was itself ushered in by the innovations and success of the original Avatar, and Cameron is back with a vengeance to reclaim his crown. The reality is that while the original is certainly one of the most successful films of all time, and certainly one of the most celebrated blockbusters of all time, it didn't linger in the cultural memory for very long. The announcement that that sequels were on the way was actually meant more with bemusement than excitement from most audiences, and critics themselves even were asking the question, how necessary is any of this? Common criticism regarding the original film is that it was derivative and replete with Cameron plagiarizing aspects of his own films. These criticisms are fair enough, especially now that we have the additional context that the sequel provides. There's a reason why Avatar's narrative beats and character archetypes remind people so much of other works like Dances with Wolves or even Ferngully and Pocahontas. Cameron is deliberately being basic on a narrative level and, in regard to the, complexity of his characters, because his real concern is the ideology or worldview he is selling you. Cameron is not a very subtle filmmaker, known for writing ham-fisted, trite, and unsophisticated dialogue for his actors to regurgitate. This caused a lot of audiences who saw Avatar to tune out the talking and roll their eyes at Cameron's politics and environmental message. Depending on who your sympathies are with, Sully is more of a villain than he is a protagonist, and ultimately I think this is why Avatar was washed from the zeitgeist shortly after its theatrical run. In a way, the audiences who saw the original are due for a rug pull, no matter how they felt about its subject matter. Some people pined so deeply, for this paradise planet beyond the stars full of giant cat people, that they killed themselves in despair, once, reality really set in that they couldn't just leave Earth and go there. The other people like me walked out of the theater, threw away our 3D glasses, and said, well, that's cool, what's next? Because there was an awful lot of things coming down the pipe, if you know what I mean. In the interim, Cameron has apparently been busy building out the world building and background features of his saga, and in support of this, we have Sam Worthington saying in an interview that Cameron provided a fully written feature-length script to serve as a background material for the actors to fill in the gaps between the two films. This is something that will never be filmed or realized, it's just there for them to pull from in their performances. Producer John Landau has also all but confirmed that the screenplays for the 4 sequel films had to be completed before they even shot a frame of The Way of Water. By all accounts, Cameron is very committed to, fully articulating and understanding the background of his world before he really moves forward with presenting it to us. And, I can appreciate that, considering, how some people, like over at Disney have operated with other franchises. And based on the film he's provided, to us here this time around, I can honestly say I feel like he's succeeded in that regard. He's also succeeded at making his entire franchise a hell of a lot more interesting to me personally. As I alluded to in our episode on this film, The Way of Water has elevated this franchise from simply just being a cool if derivative setting, and actually providing us with a story with some meat to it and some stakes and some nuance, which is actually kind of surprising. And I'm not even sure if Cameron himself, as masterful as he is, actually appreciates the nuance that he's put in here. And the fact of the matter is, this is a movie about sunshine and rainbows and like living with the trees and hugging them and fucking them. This is a movie about one thing, and this is a franchise about one thing. And it is that war is good, war is necessary, freedom isn't free, and you must kill for your loved ones. That is what Avatar is about. Cameron lulls his audience in, picking up right where the first film ended, with the renegade Avatar pilot, Jake Sully, victorious and humanity sent packing. The opening frames of the second showcase once again the wonder and majesty of the Pandoran ecosystem, a celebration of the Na'vi culture that Sully has adopted, and one that has eschewed technological and industrial development in favor of their transcendent connection with the natural world and the entity known as Awa that they commune with. Sully and Terry have a family. It's all sunshine and rainbows until the night sky is altered by the arrival of new stars that appear to be growing ever larger. Sully knows what this represents, that despite the years, the demons from the sky had not forgotten their defeat, and now have returned, bringing with them the unmitigated fury that can only be meted out by a technologically advanced enemy who has decided to throw out diplomacy. Dropships are lowered through the atmosphere on cables miles long, unleashing an inferno that reduces the glorious rainforests of Pandora into a molten, churning plain. Eventually, the dropship lands, opening its doors to reveal rows of amp-suit piloting space marines rolling out to protect the gargantuan bulldozers and earth movers scraping up the charred remains of what moments before had been an Eden. Our heroes were able to flee and survive, but they are left with an enemy they cannot so easily shrug off. The film then leaps into the future, glossing over a year of surely heroic guerrilla resistance where a new status quo has been established. The message to the audience is clear. Pandora doesn't belong to the Na'vi anymore. The virus of humanity has dug in, and the white blood cells of the Na'vi's Gaia, Awa, cannot contend with this aggressive of a strain. With the arrival of humanity's new secret weapon, a squad of Na'vi Avatar clones implanted with the consciousness of Colonel Quaritch and his jarhead mercenaries, Sully makes the decision to give up fighting, deciding instead to run, hoping his enemy's lust for his blood will spare his people further suffering. Quaritch and his cohort were only decanted in the first place because of Sully's successful efforts to curtail humanity's exploitation of the planet, but over the course of the film, it becomes clear that humanity's subjugation cannot be prevented. It can only be delayed. Avatar: The Way of Water is not a utopian story about an ideal world that we all should aspire to live in. It is a saga of slow-motion disaster, a showcase of the hell that we in the real world, do happen to live in, at least according to James Cameron. We are a species trapped in an insatiable cycle of addiction that we cannot hope to recover from. We've set our sights on a more fertile world beyond the stars, and we have, come to it, with it full of all these wonders that only a higher power like James Cameron can possibly conceive, and we are ready and willing to glass the entire fucking surface of it, just in the name of paving it over and building up a new, growth of our malignancy. Avatar as a franchise has always been a reversal of the dynamic found in the Dark Forest hypothesis, which is the idea that other alien civilizations do exist, but that survival depends on being invisible to other intelligent species, who inevitably will view others, including yours, as a threat. The only way to win the game is not to play, and the only way not to play is making sure no one knows you're out there in the dark. Chinese writer Cixin Liu took this theory even further in his Three Body Problem series of novels, positing that while civilizations continuously expand over time, the total matter in the universe remains constant. That is to say, there's not enough resources to go around. Cameron is doing the same thing in Avatar, with his desperate, ruthless, corporate-driven humanity. Not only is there not enough unobtainium in the universe for, everyone to have their fair share, the Na'vi can't really expect their neighbors to stay away from their, beautiful homeworld when they find out that the space whales in Pandora's oceans also happen to have a golden immortality serum in their brains that literally stops human aging. I guess I'm just saying, there's a reason why mankind isn't letting go and why we're coming back here. The horror of it all, of course, is found in what mankind is willing to do to obtain their desires. And Cameron does not shy away from how callous and brutal a conqueror mankind can be. The thing that is being a little lost in all of the histrionic screeching coming from id-Paul afflicted critics, you who are all upset about cultural appropriation or all the shitlord things that Cameron likes to say about Native Americans and so on, is the fact that these movies aren't just allegory. Like, it is like him just blatantly saying this is how he sees the human race here today in the current year. But in the future of Cameron's film, the human race is capable of impossible things. They can grow alien-human hybrids that can be remotely piloted. They can copy the consciousnesses of, soldiers and slap them into the brains of cloned bodies so they can wage eternal warfare for them and, maintain order beyond the stars. And they do so with extreme prejudice. But what this humanity of these films cannot be bothered to do is to be good stewards of their home, let alone any other planet they come across. One would almost think that Cameron had sneakily made a Warhammer 40,000 movie and just didn't tell anybody. That's how grimdark the humanity of Avatar really is. Since this is Cameron, we get Edie Falco as a cruel Clintonian corporate military middle manager instead of some immortal god emperor, but both are driven by the same single-minded desire to preserve the human race and conquer the blackness of space, as well as a zero-tolerance policy towards the Xenos. Humanity, in our own reality, used to live in a dark forest of its own. Even with the light of civilization, that illumination didn't always bring with it good tidings, as any society or people subjugated or subsumed by imperialism and colonialism over the years could tell you. The harsh truth is that any resource growing out of or that can be found beneath the earth is of value to someone, even if you are ignorant to it. James Cameron is a master filmmaker who has decided he will only entertain you by tracing around the actual horrors created daily by the existence of the human species. He's been doing this since the first Terminator movie and The Abyss. Concerns like pollution, mass extinction, the military-industrial complex, and resource scarcity are all at the forefront of Cameron's mind. And deep down, he wants his movies to motivate everyone who sees them to see these forces at work in their world and maybe even change their ways to compensate. Cameron's commitment to his own worldview is undermined by his other commitment to entertain, and I'm not sure he succeeds in helping his audience to truly broaden their vision beyond what Cameron himself sees. He's just another prophet of the message, and the message is, the problem is you. I don't think it's unreasonable to cast some shade Cameron's way for, a little bit of hypocrisy on his part here. He is the one preaching, after all. And if he really did care about preserving the environment, why does he insist upon, all the merchandising and, the expenditures of energy and resources that surely goes into decades-long, productions to realize his artistic visions? There's no way that these things are carbon neutral, whatever, that even means anymore. What I'm getting at is that, no matter how much contempt, Cameron may have, for the U.S. military, he clearly, has a lot of it, just like he does for his own species. But it's all undermined by, what he can achieve artistically. in his, forge of creativity. Like, he just makes it all, even like the grimdark horror of it all, more awesome and compelling than any other movie he's done in recent memory. At least for me. I don't know if other people appreciated it in the way I did. I guess I went into this movie, playing a lot of Dark Tide, listening to a lot of like Adeptus Ridiculous and like lutein videos to kill time, because I am just enraptured by that setting and just the I guess, for lack of a better word, the cosmic horror of it all. And I just really appreciated how Cameron was willing to make humanity be the cosmic horror. We are the monster coming in from the dark, but he just makes it look too fucking cool. Like he wants me to hate humanity in these movies, but I'm just like, nah, we are badass. We are doing like what we have to do. It's a hard universe out there, and we made the right choice to follow technology and get us to the point where we could even fuck with anybody. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but just in the scheme of things, in the scheme of existence as presented by Cameron's movies, it makes all too much sense to me that we are the way he's presenting us, because that's who we are in the real world. I don't want to spoil the events of the film any more than I have already. Needless to say, you probably should just go and see it. But by the end, Sully comes to the realization that running won't solve anything. Even James Cameron, can't illuminate the grim darkness of the far future, and the only option that's left is war, an existential war for the fate of not only Pandora and all of the valuable life within it, but also for the human race, who has orphaned themselves by killing the only home that they've ever known. And they will bring it. We are the necromancers descending from the sky, and we will sap every last drop, because we are humanity and we survive.